Hey everyone, welcome to the 5th episode of the Indie Game Devlog, where I go over the development of my game Orb. I just want to apologize for the delay in this episode, because I was busy with some school stuff, so I kinda had to put this aside, but I'm back now, so let's get into it. Now, I don't have too much new gameplay stuff to show you. In this episode, I mainly want to talk about some ideas that I had. Now, one of the first things I want to talk about were some concepts I've thought about how I can improve one of the most important parts of the game, gameplay and controls. In my mind, I was just thinking that there wasn't too much that I could do to improve the game's controls, since they seem pretty simple. Just going back and forth between various dimensions with left and right mouse button. Pretty simple, right? But as it turns out, a lot of people seem to have issues with the basic dimension swapping controls. They'd often lose track of what dimension they were in and forget whether to left or right click and then die. So I've been trying to come up with some ideas on how to improve the gameplay and on how to make the controls feel more natural and easier to use. Most of the ideas involve indication of which dimension you are. Now, the first idea I want to talk about has to do with dimension indication. Now, in the demo, the indicator for dimension was the number displayed at the top of the orb, though it seemed that people still lost track of which dimension they were in and swapped the controls around. So I figured rather than just using numbers, how about I just use colors? But rather than just replacing the numbers on the screen for like a color, I decided, what if I make a ring around the top part of the orb, which will display a color corresponding to which dimension you're currently in. It'd be a small change that'd be quite easy to implement, and it would make it a lot easier for the players to keep track of which dimension they're currently in, so that rather than just looking for the number, they can just look at the color. Now, the second idea I had was quite similar to the first one with the ring, still in the same realm of indication with colors, but rather than using a ring around the orb itself, I was thinking about what if I changed the colors on the walls and some of the mechanics to correspond to the dimension. The funny thing is, I already tried this out in an older video that I already talked about. This was the first test of the mechanic of swapping dimensions. However, here, as you can see, it clearly doesn't look that good, but then again, this was quite some time ago as well. But I feel like if I added a light tint or like a slight shift of hue in the dimensions, then I could also create a clear indicator of which dimension you're in. And also, again, this isn't outside the realm of possibility. It's quite a simple fix, and it could look kind of nice, because I have gotten some comments from people saying that the levels look too similar whenever you change dimensions, so that maybe changing the colors of the dimensions could mix it up a little. Another idea I had, this one doesn't exactly have to do with indication of dimension, but rather a fix for a bug. Now, in the demo, a big common bug was that players managed to get outside of the map and on top of other dimensions. And the way that this was caused was if a player tried to swap dimensions, but something was blocking them in the next dimension. So if they were to overlap when they teleported, what would happen was they would get the animation and the game would think that they've teleported a dimension up or down, while in reality they're still in the same place. So the value has changed, but they're still in the same physical space in the level. So that means that they can teleport again and then go out of bounds. A neat little idea I had to fix this issue was also by changing and adding a slight feature to the orb itself. I was thinking about adding a small kind of LED light on the side of the orb. This would be a detector if the player were to overlap something in the next or previous dimension. So if the player was safe and could teleport without overlapping anything, then the light would be green. Although if you were to overlap something when you swap dimensions, it would be red, and then it would disable teleporting for you. And then, for one other thing, then I was thinking about adding a blue blinking light for specific levels. I'm not going to talk about those levels just yet, but trust me, it is an interesting concept that I'll probably reveal in the upcoming episodes. So yeah, alternatively, I was also thinking about, rather than blocking the player from teleporting dimension, I was also thinking about adding a autocorrect system, so that if the player were to merge with something, that it would automatically adjust it and move it. However, I think that I personally prefer the concept of having a sensor block your path if you would overlap with something, because that way I can go for more extreme differences in level design, so that I can create areas in some dimensions that won't exist in others. And then this can also be displayed on the selection wheel, and that allows me to make more intricate levels. Now, this fourth idea isn't exactly anything new, and it's already in the game right now. Now, this concept is just adding different methods of control. There are only two ways of jumping dimensions. It was either with left or right clicking, or using the triggers on a controller. So those were the only two ways of jumping dimensions. But in the full version, I want 5 different ways of changing dimensions. There's going to be the standard left and right mouse button to jump up and down dimensions. There's going to be left and right trigger on controllers. There's going to be a selection wheel if you hold tab, so you can jump from any dimension to any dimension. And on controller, rather than using a selection wheel, you can use the buttons on the D-pad to choose which dimension you want to go to instantly. And then the fifth one is just by linking each dimension to a custom button in the keyboard bindings. I feel like providing different methods of control will give the player more freedom, so that everybody can use whichever controls suit them the most and whichever one they find the most comfortable, so that none of these are required, but they can all be used. Now, I know I haven't exactly shown too much in this video yet, it's mainly just been some concepts and ideas, but I do have 2 things that I want to show you guys. The first one being, well, a new mechanic. Again, this mechanic wasn't exactly a new idea, although I just never got it functioning properly until now. On the surface, it doesn't look like anything too special, it's just a big fan. However, getting this to function properly was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. Originally, it was just by launching the player up, however, that didn't really have the physics of wind, it just kind of felt more like a trampoline. So this new system I have in place for the fan mechanic is a lot better, and it works on both objects and the player. And I do feel like this could be quite fun in combination with the other mechanics in the game, and I've even started making some levels with this new mechanic, and I do have to say that they are quite fun. Now there's one more thing I do want to show you guys, and it's this. It isn't anything too special, it's just a small projector, however it did teach me a valuable lesson. That an interactive environment is way more fun than a static one. I know that sounds simple on paper, but this really put it into perspective. This projector was just going to be stationary and simple, with the player unable to interact with it. But then I thought about it, and it turned out to be a lot more entertaining if the player could interact and mess around with it. This did mean that I had to remake the projector, but it was worth it if it gave a more enjoyable result. So I might add some other items within the levels to make them more interactive, so the player has the choice to just wander around and mess around with some stuff. They don't have to do much or even impact the gameplay all too much, but just having small interactable items in these levels that you can pick up or you can touch and mess around with, it ends up making it a lot more fun, I think, and it makes it feel a lot more enjoyable. Of course, this isn't my top priority, but I do want to add some small things here and there that the player might be able to interact with. It could give a sense of uniqueness to each level. Now, in the last video I said I was going to announce the winner in the next devlog, so here we go. The winner is Lirycs88. Congratulations, you get your name somewhere within the full version of the game. Now I'm thinking about doing something like this again when we hit another milestone maybe. Now I'm not too sure if we do the same thing with putting someone's name in the game or something else, but we'll see. Maybe if you have a good idea you can leave it in the comments. And also make sure to tell me what you think of the ideas of adding different types of controls and different indicators in the game. Maybe you have some great ideas too. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a like. If you want to see more updates about the game in the future, maybe you can subscribe. And if you want to see even more frequent updates outside of YouTube, you can either join our Discord in the description below or follow me on Twitter. Yes, I actually try and use it now. Anyways, see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.